On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks won Game 6 to force
Game 7!
How did the Mavericks backcourt outplay the Suns backcourt? We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about what Game 7 means for the Mavericks. How different is this Mavericks team in this Game 7 than last year's Game 7? Talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Let it ride. Let it ride. Day two. Day two. Tied 3-3 with the Suns. Let's go. Let's go. And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including and especially YouTube, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to comment below. Comment below your prediction for Game 7, what you think is going to happen, all that. Joining me, as always, my co-host contributor at Mavs.com, the Stream Sultan, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
What up? It's been good. I just got back from a Rangers game.
Hey.
First game in the new ballpark. Go listen to, hey, today's your first listen is Locked On Mavs. You know what your second listen could be? Locked On Rangers.
Yeah, with our boy Bryce.
Go listen to Locked On Rangers as as Bryce sulks in his misery because they lost. But it was a great experience. If you live in Dallas, get out to a Rangers game. Really family-friendly place. Super chill. Just make sure you empty your savings account to be able to afford everything. Just everything that it costs. But
well, you left in a jersey and a hat and probably like a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, candy, anything you buy is like $12. But also, I was on Mavs Twitch stream today. I've been doing that a lot on Fridays with Mavs.com, and I gave a hot take a little bit about seafood. And I said that
the people were not having it, including
Bob Vulgaris, who chimed in on Twitter about my seafood take that I needed some more omega-3s. And
you do. We could all use some more omega-3s, including Isaac. All right, on today's show, we're going to get into our final thoughts from Game 6, and just an incredible game that the Mavericks won to force this Game 7. And then we'll look ahead a little bit to Game 7. We will do a Game 7 preview episode for tomorrow morning so that you guys will have an episode today and tomorrow for Saturday and Sunday. So make sure you look out for that. But the backcourts in this series so far have been fascinating to me, because you go into this and you think, okay, Luka's the best player in this series. And then the next two are glaringly obviously, Chris Paul and Devin Booker, right? I don't think anyone refuted that.
I was thinking Boban, but anyway, keep on.
Do I still have my Boban? Yeah. Still have it. Glaringly obvious it was Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and that, DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson were somehow the next three. And that Jalen Brunson, for the Mavericks to win this series, they'd have to do a lot of things right. But that Jalen Brunson would have to assert his way up the ladder and to get to, can he get to the fifth best player in this series? Can he get to the sixth best? So it's like Luka, 3 Suns, and then Brunson, right? Can he get to that point where he is better than Bridges? He's more impactful than Ayton. And you start to look at some of these stats through 6 games. Ready for this?
Ready.
Chris Paul and Booker, 237 points, 66 assists, and 45 turnovers. So good numbers. Luka and Brunson, 300 points, 63 assists, and only 37 turnovers. So they have 50 more points or 60 more points basically. Just about the same number of assists and less turnovers, 8 less turnovers than them combined. These backcourts have played not even. Luka has been better, and Brunson has been just good enough that it makes it that the Mavericks are dominating the backcourt matchups in this series so far.
Did you use that basketball reference for that? Did you know how to?
I have used it in the past, yeah.
No, I mean, it's we went into this series basically saying I was trying to pull up I was wanting to pull up Jalen Brunson versus Chris Paul because wasn't it on our crossover that I said I asked Brendan Clean, I was like, what's the odds? It was super late in that first crossover I did. I said, what's the odds that Jalen Brunson outplays Chris Paul in this series? And I think we all kind of like laughed about it. And
I
Brendan
probably
Clean was
laughed
like,
at you. I probably laughed right in your face because Chris Paul was just coming off that Pelicans series and this season that he's had where he's just been incredible.
Dang, I'm not as well versed in stat. I was trying to pull up super quick, but oh well. I just wanted to see what's the difference in their numbers there. This series, because obviously Chris Paul had a great start to the series, but these last 4 games for him, he's looked older and he hasn't put up the greatest of games. Obviously Brunson struggled a little bit in Phoenix, but the fact that they're at least close or in the same like realm of a category this series is huge for Dallas. And I mean, that's why it's a game 7 for the most part.
When you look at Chris Paul's stats over the last 4 games, by the way, Dallas Mavericks over the last 4 games against the Suns are 3-1. So if you just want to go off of recency bias, the Mavericks are trending in the right direction. Last 4 games for Chris Paul, 9.3 points a game. He's taken just 7 shots a game. 7 shots a game. Like that's James Harden in an elimination game level stuff. 6 assists, still fine. But 4.5 turnovers, that's not Chris Paul like. Just 1 steal, and he's a minus 4.5 in the plus minus on average. Like, those are just pedestrian stats. And he's shooting 50% from the field. He's shooting 54% from 3, 100% from the free throw line. He's just not taking a ton of shots because the Mavericks have been playing good enough. He's been turning the ball over a lot, not getting a ton of opportunities. And he's just been bad, right? And the hand maybe bothering him. There was the turnover where Frank Ntilikina was guarding him on like the left wing, and then he goes out of bounds on the left sideline, and Frank Ntilikina forces him out of bounds. He still has the ball goes out and it goes in the Mavs' favor. He's like holding his hand and he like misdribbled the ball. It's just not something Chris Paul normally does. So something seems to be up with him. And then obviously that play where Jay Crowder threw Frank Ntilikina into Chris Paul, and then he was hurting his hand coming up too. Chris Paul has not been good, especially not been good in the Mavs wins. And he wasn't even that great in the Suns win in game 5. So that's a huge thing for this Suns team going into game 7, but it's the reason why the Mavericks are here basically.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at Brunson and Chris's stats here. Brunson's averaging 18 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Basically in the series, we just do those 3 counting stats there, 14, 4, and 6 for Chris. And it's like, I mean, dang, I mean, it's not very far off there. When it gets into the shooting numbers, I think there's a handful of things that you could look at it from a Mavericks perspective and say, holy crap, how are we at 7 games? Like the fact that Brunson's shooting 18% from 3 in the series and Luka Doncic is shooting 29% from 3 in the series. Like Luka and JB are shooting under 30% from 3 of this entire series, and we're out of game 7. I think you could say so many sentences like that. Spencer Dinwiddie has been a no-show up until this last game, and they've made it to a game 7.
Their starting center has been mostly a negative.
Exactly. And it's like they've lost the rebounding battle a lot of these games, and they made it to a game 7. Like there's so many of those sentences that you could say this has happened, and they've still made it to a game 7. That is pretty remarkable.
It is pretty remarkable to look at it. It's wild to see, but just looking at these backcourts, I think that it's insane that the Mavericks have the Mavericks backcourt has outplayed the Suns backcourt this thoroughly, right? And that was going to be kind of that's been the series, like that's the recipe for the Mavericks, because Brunson outplayed Donovan Mitchell in round 1, and that was the recipe for the Mavericks, especially with Luka missing 3 games. And now like Luka and Brunson have to outplay Chris Paul and Booker collectively, and just by counting stats and overall just how they've played and the expectations for each team, the Mavs backcourt has outplayed the Suns backcourt, and that's been a huge factor in this. But coming up, there's another defensive assignment that we saw that got flipped. The one big adjustment that we saw Jason Kidd make in game 6 was flipping Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith. Why was that such a big difference for them? And will he stay with that in game 7? We'll talk about that more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. It's a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. We got new Built Bars delivered to our house today. Shout out to Built Bar, an incredible company that sent us the birthday cake puffs. I got to eat one today. It's covered in white chocolate. Delicious, 150 calories, 16 grams of protein, 9 grams of sugar. A candy bar with sprinkles on it, marshmallow fluff in the middle, and covered in white chocolate. Like 9 grams of sugar? That's insane if you think about it. And it was really, really good. I didn't like the first birthday cake bar that they sent us, but I did like this one. I like the puffs. It's an incredible bar if you want something sweet really quick. You want something that's not going to weigh you down too much. It's not going to bog you down in too much sugar, give you a sugar high and all that. It's not going to be gritty on your teeth and you're like, oh, I feel like I'm old now. I can't eat this like sugary stuff or else my teeth will feel terrible, right? That's not what Built Bars do. Check them out, built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your entire order. It's built.com. All right, Isaac Harris.
Can I mention one more thing real quick before we transition?
Always. Wait. Say the thing.
One more thing. I was actually texting you saying I had one more thing, but the ad break ended too soon.
It's only a minute.
One other matchup that I don't think a lot of people thought they would go this way. Dorian Finney-Smith has outplayed Mikal Bridges.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think that's a matchup that I think a lot of people, even Mavs fans, was probably unsure about going into the series. And when you look at even like their 3-point percentage, Mikal's shooting 33% from three. Dorian Finney-Smith's at like 45, I think, from the series. He's averaging more points than him. I would say that you could probably say Dorian's had a better, defensive impact on the series.
For sure.
On Booker, Chris Paul, and these guys. It's not like by a wide margin.
No.
But the fact that I think he's outplayed Mikal a little bit and that they're like right there together is massive. And anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, because we were saying that Bridges was one of the top like 6 players in this series. And so if Dorian is outplaying them, then all of a sudden you start doing the draft where you're like, okay, which players would you want in a 7-game series? If Dorian inserts himself in there too, then the Mavs have at least three guys that are in that conversation, which is massive for the Mavericks. And it's the reason why they've won these games. And Dorian was like a non-factor in game 6 too. We still could have a Dorian game. And we'll talk about game 7 from last year where Dorian was one of the few players that actually stepped up in that game 7 against the Clippers. And so to do or die game 7 game again for them, will Dorian continue to do the same thing? He's just been such a big factor.
Sam Vecini had a great tweet during the game the other night. He said, Sam Vecini, Athletic, he said, Dallas has a bunch of role players that you win with. Dorian Finney-Smith, Jalen Brunson, Maxey, Bullock. They're all either killer two-way players or killer decision makers. They might still need a legit number 2 guy to win a title, but these dudes are awesome and deserve so much credit.
Who has been saying that for like 3 years at this point?
Have y'all been subscribed?
Honestly, if you're part of the Raccoon Squad, that means you listen 5 days a week, and most of you guys have been listening for a long time. You know that like we've been very close to the vest on Dorian and Maxey and Jalen Brunson, more or less, but like those 2 guys specifically. Like the Mavericks, and then when Reggie Bullock came in, we were really high on that signing, and like this is huge for the Mavericks. This is a really, really big deal. That's why the whole like I've been playing this all season.
I have to apologize that you felt that he should have played more,
because those 3 guys are just so important for the Mavericks, and to have those role players, like you can't just go trade that for potential young talent. That's just somebody that you're like, okay, maybe they can become like a good shooter on this team, but you just don't do that. And so that's why we
talked with Jalen Brunson at Media Day that
I haven't done that in like 2 weeks.
I couldn't do it.
I haven't done it in 2 weeks. If he wins finals MVP, I'll do it.
Do you still have your dentist Top Shot?
I do. But the adjustment that Jason Kidd made in game 6 was switching Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith. Bullock had been guarding Chris Paul for the first 5 games, and he'd been picking him up full court, and he's been trying to make it hard for him. And then Dorian was on Booker, and he got that assignment. And I think through 5 games, Chris Paul and Booker kind of figured those guys out in a way, right? Like there's tendencies on offense. Like when guys study film, they study, okay, does this guy go to his left hand more? Does this guy pull up here? What does he try to do with his hesitation? Like where does he tend to drive more? Like where's the spray chart of his shots? And I think offensive guys kind of do the same thing with defensive guys. I don't know if they watch film that intensely necessarily, but they'll get a feel for them through a couple of games and know, okay, this guy's going to try to force me this way or that way. Isaac's got a Built Bar right on camera. They'll try to force me this
That's
way.
Unprofessional if I eat.
His length is this. This is his timing on this. I can get him off of his shot or off of his pivot foot if I do this, blah, blah, blah. And then Jason Kidd switching those two guys. The fact that Bullock and Dorian are that, versatile enough to go switch and, okay, you guard Chris Paul now and you guard Devin Booker now, changed it up enough that I think that it helped because Chris Paul and Devin Booker weren't so used to and so comfortable with the defensive tendencies of Bullock or Dorian Finney-Smith. And
even add Frank in there.
Exactly.
Frank. Now you have, I wouldn't say Frank's at the same level as Dorian and Reggie, but you have another capable defender. And, I think we were talking about this on the Mavs.com Twitch stream, today. And I think Kat brought it up of, Donovan Mitchell. He's a little bit more like chaotic and just like super athletic, go do your thing, to where, Josh Green, was playing a little bit more in that series, but she was talking about how Devin Booker is more methodical and has more craft to his game and all that, to where a guy like Frank, he excels a little bit more playing against a Devin Booker. And the fact that you have these three guys, now a third guy in that you're like rotating this. And when we just watched, we're going to talk more about that game 7 from last year in the Clippers, but it's like last year we had Dorian. And it's like, all right, Tim, the traffic cone Tim is, having to be the second perimeter defender on that. And now we have, 2.5, 3 guys, and Frank, if you want to count him as the third there.
Do you remember Josh Richardson?
I know. I don't.
Try not to.
He didn't play a ton in that last game, I don't think.
But I thought that defensive adjustment was really big. I'm really curious to see if he keeps it in game 7, if they go back to it. I think they will keep it. It seemed to work out for them pretty well. But yeah,
I want to see what the Suns' adjustment is too. I mean, they're going to have Suns do make adjustments, and I want to see what their adjustment is to the Booker kind of blitz a little bit, because that was not just putting Reggie on Booker. They blitzed Booker early. They brought the double. Sometimes they brought the complete trap, hard double on Booker. What's going to be the Suns' answer to that? And they had this set that they were running a lot whenever they could. They were going at Luka's man early, which was Mikal Bridges, and just bringing Mikal up, doing the split, kind of slip screen a little bit to where get Mikal the ball there at the top of the key. And Mikal is a decent playmaker too, to where they had a couple possessions there where he would hit Mikal, then he would hit Ayton for a layup or whatever. So I want to see if Phoenix wants to try to do that a little bit more. What's going to be their adjustment to the blitz trap? I'm really curious on it. Yeah,
do they try to get a lot of their offense that was working? They got into it quicker. They moved the ball quicker. They caught the Mavericks off their mark. And so the Mavericks, like Luka kicked. How many times did Luka kick the ball in game 6? Like it was a kick ball or something. The Mavericks got to set their defense, and then it's much easier for the Mavericks to stay in front of the Suns and continue to do the defensive principles that they want to do if they're able to get set. And so that works after made shots. It works after not turnovers in possessions, just like missed shots that maybe go out far. And so that's going to be an interesting thing to watch as well, and to see which defensive assignments. That's one big thing to look at. But all right, coming up, let's just go into that game 7 of the Clippers game, because there's a couple of things that I think we can take from that, and a couple of things we can look forward to this game 7. I want to just get to it. So coming up, we'll get into that. But before we do, let me tell you about BetOnline. It's the best place to check out the lines and odds and money lines and spreads in sports. Let's check out, see if they have that game 7 yet. Let's see if they have the game 7. This website is so ready for basketball. Oh, okay. Game 7 in Phoenix. According to BetOnline, which team is favored and by how many points, Isaac Harris?
Suns are favored by 7.5.
6.
Okay.
6-point favorite for the Suns.
I'm not too bad at this. I don't even bet. I feel like
you've been killing. You've been killing guess the lines. It's been back and forth games, but they've been not by like 2 points. They've been like, these games have been won by a lot of points. That really doesn't surprise me. But go check it out. If you feel really confident about Mavs in 7, go put some money down on BetOnline. Go check out everything else available. They have NBA draft stuff. They have college stuff that you can check out. They have WNBA odds as well that you can check out. Everything available. That's my dog downstairs. Check out BetOnline. Check out the website, mobile device, everything. BetOnline. It's where the game starts.
What do I even do? I'm eating a Built Bar, and Nick just left. So let's talk about this series a little bit more. Actually, let's do a flashback. Let's do a flashback to the Game 7 Clippers Mavs. We did talk about this on the Twitch stream on the Mavs today, but Game 7 last year, it's Clippers Mavs, and we have this to compare the difference between this Mavs team and last year. It's literally night and day. Okay, because let's just look at the box score. Let's look at the minute distribution.
I've retrieved my dog now. He was screaming downstairs, and now I have retrieved him.
I was trying this new Built Bar for the first time, and honestly,
so I left the room, and you were eating a Built Bar. Professional podcasters, Nick Angstadt and Isaac Harris.
Is this a basement pod?
This Clippers team, this Mavs team is so different, right? Like, listen to the players that played minutes in this Game 7.
I literally just said this. Luka Doncic, 44 minutes. Kristaps Porzingis, 42 minutes. Tim Hardaway, 42 minutes. Boban, 31 minutes. Those are three of your starters right there. They're not playing a lick in this game.
They're gone. Yeah, they're out.
Sunday. Dorian Finney-Smith played 39 minutes. And then let's look at this bench unit here.
The stout bench.
Jalen Brunson played 10 minutes.
Took 3 shots.
Was a minus 11. Maxey played 9 minutes. Was a minus 12.
Maxey was dealing with injury last year too, right?
Yeah.
Dwight
Powell played 5 minutes. I mean, these three, Dwight and Jalen Brunson are starters now, and they played a combined 15 minutes in Game 7 last year. Maxey's a key guy off the bench, played 9 minutes. And then the only other two guys on the team that played was Trey Burke, played 7 minutes. Josh Richardson played 6 minutes. I mean, to say this team is completely different would be an understatement.
It's only really Luka and Dorian that are the same.
Yeah.
Like, you can't look at this team and say that anything is really like the same as last year. It's a completely different team. But then that also means that the experience the Mavericks got in a Game 7 last year, Luka and Dorian were the only two guys to really even step up in this. Luka had 46 points, 14 rebounds, huge game for him. He hit 5 of his 11 threes. Dorian, 18 points, 10 boards, 6 offensive rebounds, Isaac, because
he is really good at rebounding on the offensive side of the ball.
He hit 4 threes as well, and he was a positive one. He was the only player on the Mavericks team with a positive plus minus. So in the minutes that Dorian played, the Mavericks were winning in Game 7, and they ended up losing by 15. So it's just, these teams are so different. And now this Mavericks team has much more clear identity than they did last year. They have way more wing defenders and options. Like, listening to that list, it's literally only Dorian, and like Josh Richardson should have been that other option, but he was just registered not playable by the end of this series. He played 6 minutes in this game. Maxey was only able to play 9 minutes in this game. And it was like Dorian and Tim Hardaway and then Luka kind of guarding these wings for the Clippers. And so you look at the Clippers side, and like Paul George and Kawhi combined for 50. Marcus Morris had 23, and the Clippers had 7 players in double figures. It's kind of hard for me to imagine 7 players for the Suns in double figures in this game.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't imagine that happening. I mean, unless they just start taking a ton of threes. Because if they start taking a ton of threes, they have guys that can hit the three. You know, Cam Johnson, I think, shot 42% from 3 this season. So if they get him, you know, if he shoots 8 or 9 threes in this game, he's going to be in double figures. Could we see Jay Crowder hit, 3 threes in this game? Yeah, we could, because he's been hitting them in this series. So
they had 4 players in Game 5 in double figures, and they won that game. So it's like,
yeah,
they have to have three more players contribute more. That means like Chris Paul and Biyombo getting 3 more points. I mean, Landry Shamet hit another shot.
It's wild seeing the different style of this Mavs team too, because Porzingis played 42 minutes last year. Boban played 31 minutes. And these are 2 dudes over 7 feet tall. And now Dallas, their biggest man that they're playing is Dwight, and he's playing 8 minutes. And, then it's Maxey at 6'10", and he's like this switchable, 4 or 5 a little bit. So it's just, they've embraced a whole different style of game. I mean, Boban and Kristaps started together. These are 2 of the tallest dudes in the league. Like, it seems like an eternity ago that this was that Mavs team. It's wild.
That was such an 2011 Mavs adjustment where they put JJ Redick. They put JJ Barea in the starting lineup. Like instead, that Mavericks team in 2021 put Boban in the starting lineup and it went super huge. Like think about how big that starting lineup was, by the way. Like Tim Hardaway is 6'5". He's the shortest guy on the starting lineup. Then it's Luka. Then it's Dorian, Porzingis, and Boban. Like that is a huge starting five, way bigger than the starting five the Mavericks have now. But this one is faster. This one is more mobile. This one is more versatile for sure.
Zubac played 2 minutes in that game,
and this one can hit threes better, right? Bullock and Dorian, and Maxey when he plays starters minutes, and Brunson and Luka. Like those are all guys. They play 5 out all the time. This team was not playing 5 out all the time in this game, especially with Boban playing 31 minutes. Boban played 31 minutes in this game 7 last year. And by the way, last year's game 7 was in June. It was June 6th. I forget about that. And it was also an afternoon game, but this one's at night now.
We also should have led with this now that we're 25 minutes into the pod, but with Boston, winning game 6 and forcing a game 7, the game 7 start time for Dallas is now set. So that is now the second game on Sunday. I'm sure you've seen that by now, but they'll tip at 7 p.m. Central Time on Sunday because what 2 incredible series here. Bucks 2
game 7s in one day. Let's go.
Yeah, 2:30. It's like just mark off your whole Sunday there for these back-to-back game 7s.
Heck yes.
But yeah, so a lot of you guys knew this. It was in flux that if Milwaukee closed out the series yesterday, then Dallas would have had that 2:30 game. But since they didn't, Dallas gets moved back to 7. So couple of keys in this game 7. I've been saying this all series, and it continues to be true. The Mavericks defense has to be what wins them the game. They have to play really good defense. In their wins in this series, the Mavericks defensive rating has been 99 to 106. That's points scored per 100 possessions. They're basically keeping them to under 100 points or like around 100 points, basically. In the Mavericks losses, the Mavericks defensive rating has been between 115 and 141. Like it just has to be in those two areas, 99 to 106 or 115 to 141, right? And so we can start tracking that after like first quarter, second quarter. I'll probably be tweeting it out and saying, hey, this is trending in the right direction for the Mavericks. Their defense is taking over. This is a game the Mavericks can win. Those are huge things. Their defense has to absolutely muck it up like we've been saying. Another kind of key stat here, big differential, is turnovers, which is how they create some of this defense. In game 6, turnovers were massive for the Mavericks. They were absolutely huge in helping the Mavericks get fast break points, but also just playing good defense. Turnover percentage for the Suns in the Mavericks wins 18 to 24%. The Suns were turning the ball over. In the Mavericks losses, Phoenix's turnover rate was 10 to 15. So basically, if it's over 16, then the Mavericks are in a good spot and could win. If it's under 16, then the Mavericks are not in a good spot to win. So those are 2 stats that I just really want to focus on because the Mavericks defense and how they force turnovers could really affect this game. But game 7, somehow everything goes nuts and none of the stats that usually matter, and it just comes down to who can make shots. Yeah, well, going with your defensive rating, look at some of these total points scored for Phoenix. Like those first 2 games in Phoenix, they scored over 120 points in both of those games. You look at those next games in Dallas, they scored 94 points, then they scored 101 points. So, and then that next game in Phoenix for game 5, Phoenix scores 110. And then the next game back in Dallas, they have their lowest scoring game, to where they score, what was it? 94, 86, right? 86. So, if you just want to say in this series, if the Suns score beneath 101, the Mavericks have won. If they score over 101, Phoenix has won. So let's just put that on there just for the fun of it. If Phoenix scores under 101 points, let's say
I'll put it like 110.
Okay.
I'll say under 110 or over 110. That's my line of demarcation for that one. Luka also has to be getting guys going from 3 early. Isaac's thing this whole series, which has been true, is guys have to Dorian, Bullock, or Maxey have to 2 of those 3 guys have to take 10 threes or close to 10 threes, 8 to 12 threes, basically, they have to take. In the Mavericks wins, 5 Mavericks have averaged 0.7 3-pointers made or more. So basically a 3. So 5 Mavericks are making a 3 in the first quarter in their wins. In their losses, only 3 Mavericks are making a 3 in the first quarter on average. So I think that's a big thing too. It's spreading it out. It's getting more guys involved. It's more shots being created. And I think that's a big key going into this game 7.
Yeah, Luka's only averaging a little over 7 assists a game. I say only in this series, but when you look at the regular season, he averaged right around 9. So about assist and a half, 2 assists, somewhere through there, less than what his regular season average is. And it goes into a little bit of the game plan of Phoenix saying, hey, like, get your points. We want to try to take away the other guys. But man, if he can, I think the biggest thing that I'll be the most frustrated with, if we're watching, especially in the first quarter, and we're seeing Luka settle for the, first ever spin step back 3. Didn't know if that was the first ever one.
Was it the
Have
first
you ever seen Penny Hardaway, Nick?
I've never watched Penny Hardaway my entire life.
But if we're watching him, settle for these step back 3s, especially in the first quarter, instead of getting into the paint, drive, kick, I will be frustrated at that point. It's like, all right, we got to get into the paint. You got to drive the basketball, especially early.
And sometimes game 7s, the game plan goes completely out the door and you're just like holding on for dear life. Who's going to bail you out? And guess who could bail him out? Luka, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm not as afraid of Devin Booker and Chris Paul as I am of Kawhi Leonard last year.
Yeah. And
I could be wrong about that. Devin Booker could go off for sure. He's been unguardable at times in this series, but Kawhi Leonard was a different animal last year. He can get his shot at any point. It doesn't feel like Chris Paul and Devin Booker can get to that point as easily.
I just want to see if they're both gonna. I would rather see a duel between these 2 stars. I would rather see a Luka versus Booker, and they're going at it. It's Tim Hardaway, Dion Waiters rookie sophomore game style, and they both have 40.
That's the all time.
They both have 40 type of game. What I don't want to happen is the fouls just like ruin this thing. Like,
because Scott Foster's going to be reffing it, and it's going to be.
Well, we need Scott to, start feeling better. Obviously he couldn't ref the other night, but I don't want fouls to ruin this whole thing. And I would rather them just let the guys play. And this is the biggest stage, right? I mean, Booker was saying at post game saying, hey, I've, best words in sports game 7. I've never played in one before. Luka obviously has, but these 2 guys have played on big time stages. He's played in the finals. Luka's played in some insane stages overseas and even in the playoffs over the past few years. So, I mean, this is what these 2 dudes live for. So it would not shock me if both dudes come out and put up 40 in this game. I think it's going to come down to, unless it's an all-time performance by one of them and they get, 46 to 50 and literally they just take it over late and it's like, hey, Booker or Luka just wins this thing. I think it's going to come down to those next guys. Brunson versus Chris Paul, Dorian Finney-Smith versus Mikal Bridges. I think those guys will kind of determine what game
the others.
Like. Well, it's the role players too. We always have that conversation of role players play better at home. Could we get one game in which Dallas role players have a big time game on the road?
We'll see. Game 7. We'll have a preview of it tomorrow. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Boom!
Boom!